If you're a solo or entrepreneur, you're vying for sustenance through attention, which is why most of us feel like that tiny little wildflower in the field. I've called what we are part of, if you're a service provider or a coach like me, the attention economy. I'll take that again, the attention economy. Now, like the top 1% financially, only a tiny fraction of the attention economy, which are thought leaders, go viral or can count on a consistent income through their leadership of thought or practices. It takes years to cultivate enough resonance to sustain a real livelihood as part of the inspiration economy that we are part of. It's the attention economy. It is also the inspiration economy. Now, if you're thinking, bullshit, that's a limiting belief, I won't be surprised if you're an info guru coaching other coaches to turn out other coaches, or have opted to become an executive coach as a second career following a successful corporate career with an in-house corporate golden vein or two to tap into. What a lovely thing to retire to. Now, listen, I agree there's such thing as a limiting belief. We all have them. We all have to overcome them to succeed. However, there is also an unfortunate prevalence of privilege-induced toxic positivity going around in the coaching industry, of which I call bullshit right back. I am and do coach neurodivergent creative adults and independent artists. Now, that niche does not lend itself to a network marketing style pyramid scheme, and I'm all right with that. So now that I've gotten that off my chest, we can get back to visibility for a moment. I don't know about you, but I love it when I'm informed that someone has listened to my podcast, or who takes a moment to reply to the opening note of one of my newsletters. Because to this day, after over 20 years of being in business, I still wonder, how visible am I? Since 2003, I have spent a lot of money building a coaching business, which culminated on the threshold of 6 figures. This was back in 2021. Since then, post-pandemic and everything else, what used to work doesn't seem to work anymore. Now, at first, I blamed that 1-star review on Yelp out of 28 5-star reviews. I thought that 1-star review has done me in. Insanity. I started having other paranoid fantasies until I started to ask around and noticed that everyone was struggling. Even some really high-end coaches were starting to put out programs at very low price points all of a sudden for very short periods of time in terms of commitment. So, in response to my situation, I've changed my pricing structure and devised entry points to my practice that are accessible as I can make them. For example, I have a few donation-based offerings. I see these as coaching program funnels, just like the tripwire that sends you my 3 keys to decision-making when you sign up for my newsletter. Now, what these live funnels do is they allow people to experience pieces of my coaching arsenal, not coaching proper, which you can only experience through a consultation, but things I pull out of my toolkit from time to time, like tarot coaching, theta healing, and facilitating co-working clinics at a pay-what-you-can-enjoy cost. I find that gradually, little by little, through this know, like, and trust uh, strategy, my client base has been building back up again. Now, I don't do as many consultations as I used to, but my close rate is phenomenal. In other words, I usually close the sale. I get hired. So what that says to me is I'm attracting more qualified leads this way. This way means via incoming means like digital searches and referrals. I've really cut back a lot. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do outreach. That's what my funnels are for. But I'm no longer participating in meta ads, pay to play featured articles, paying to speak, or doing sponsorships. Now, this right here, what you're listening to, this is one arm of my outreach alongside my newsletter, which is usually weekly, Tarot Tuesdays, some form of voiced media that ends up as this podcast. And on the second and third Mondays of each month, I do respectively a tarot card clinic for an hour and a theta healing clinic. Also, once a month, as I mentioned before, I run a co-working container. I use the Pomodoro method to facilitate. So, at present, my earnings, I'm happy to report, are sufficient to keep our two-income household afloat in New York City. Now, that is to say we don't live like swells, but that's no small thing. My husband and I are both small business owners, and we manage here in New York, living rather comfortable, lovely lives. So here's my call to action today. Please keep it up with the hello in theirs, like the song says, when you read someone's blogs and newsletter. Please know that your attention is a gift, whether you do this or not. However, it is such a great kindness to encourage people by letting them know you're gifting your attention. And you'd be wise to do so, especially if you look forward to their content and want them to stick around, because as the parable goes, the wolf that survives is the one you feed. The other one wanders off into the woods and dies somewhere alongside that purple-petaled flower. Bonus points for choosing a paid subscription if you can. Yes, hint, hint, I offer some nice perks on Substack with mine. But most importantly, spread the word. After all, a referral is still the highest form of compliment.